condolences for the lost? That sounds pretty hopeless. As if everyone's dead.
Yeah, Flight 370 left Kuala Lumpur here on March 8th in the late night and flew out in this direction over toward the Pacific. Okay, when it crossed over, it turned around and it flew there over Penang, out back here toward the Andaman Sea. So it went out in this direction, and you see Penang out there, and it came out here to the west, and then it turned north. This stage is the center at Kuala Lumpur International Airport where the plane took off, and since the plane went missing, this is where the relatives and friends of the passengers and crew get together, hold memorial meetings, all of these representing candle lights of hope for the missing passengers. So even now, more than a month later, people still hope that their loved ones will someday be found, will be rescued, and will come back home. Well, if MH370 was hijacked, as much of the evidence we found so far suggests, why would someone go to all this trouble to remotely hijack a major jetliner with 200 passengers? Well, one possible motive, and which we think is the strongest motive so far that we've seen, is that aboard that plane there were 20 computer programs, 12 from Malaysia, from this plant, Freescale Semiconductor, which is one of the world's most advanced producers of microcontrollers, okay? And microcontrollers are the brains of any modern system, robotic system. It basically controls the movements, the activities of little machines. And this is the world's smallest microcontroller, called the Kinetis KL02 and the KL03. The KL02 and 3 are so small, they would fit very comfortably inside one of the dimples of a golf ball. That's how tiny they are. That's a little brain, an electronic brain that controls a huge machinery, a number of functions, inside a tiny, let's say, robot, a machine, both for civilian purposes, but more importantly for military purposes, for the next generation of military hardware that will decide which country will be the greatest military power on the earth. And the reason is, for example, if you wanted to attack the Iranian nuclear program, the air defenses, command control systems of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards and Army, you would not be able to, let's say, deliver enough bombs to that area like you could have in Iraq over Syrian airspace, because you wouldn't be able to get through there to bomb the place. So instead, for the size of a couple of bombs, you can put into a bomb casing thousands of micro robots, which are intelligent enough. Let's say you could have a number of scout robots that would crawl underground through pipes, electrical conduits, through air vent systems. They would detect, they would know what they're looking for. They'll be self-guided. They can work as teams because they have radio frequency built in among them and artificial intelligence. They would be able to find what they're looking for. They could transmit back to weapons robots, which will carry in payloads to the specific sites and knock out all the control systems, air systems, you name it. They could deliver bioweapons underground, against which there would be no defenses. Basically, what this plant produces, these tiny little microcontrollers, are the key to the next coming war with Iran. Now, if Israel wants to go alone, they will not need the U.S. Air Force or Navy support. They can do it with the little robots they produce with this ship, and that could have been the reason for the hijack. 20 personnel from this plant, 20 from Malaysia, 8 from China, who are quality control experts for the big plant in China, which would produce these industrially. That technology would be key. It was very vulnerable on that midnight flight when radar systems were shutting down all across Southeast Asia. Some 200 passengers boarded their Air Malaysia flight on the night of March 8th. The flight MH370 was supposed to take off right after midnight and head to Beijing, China, their destination. They fully expected to wake up early in the morning in Beijing and get to work or back to their families or to their tour agencies, to board buses to see China. But instead, just 40 minutes, less than 40 minutes outside of this airport, on their way toward Beijing, something terribly went wrong when the plane suddenly veered off course and went in a different direction. Now, when the plane crossed the Malaysian peninsula, it passed between two very large international airports on the western coast of Malaysia, right here on the Andaman Sea. One of them is Penang, major city, and Langkawi, major resort. Also, a little bit farther to the north is Phuket, a major tourist destination. Now, this was about 2 in the morning, so it's very possible those civilian airports were down, and the plane was flying at a very low altitude. Now, it was going due west at the time, and there's two possibilities that different people have theorized. One, that it continued west across to Sumatra, past Indonesia, and it crashed in the South Indian Ocean. The other theory is that it sort of jogged north and went around Sumatra out of radar range. Now, the problem with the Sumatra theory and the South Indian Ocean crash is that the plane was going much too fast. At the speed it was going, it would have crashed somewhere in the southern seas near Antarctica. It was flying very low. It could have run out of fuel. Yes, it could have crashed there just because it ran out of fuel. But the problem is, before it reaches Sumatra, right along the sea lane here, that's the Malacca Strait. There's thousands of oil tankers there, and it's the center of the largest anti-piracy program in the world, where there's reconnaissance planes, there's radar stations, Navy bases, and Medan Airfield, where the radar is never turned off. And therefore, there was constant surveillance along there, and nothing was picked up. So the more likely story is that it went west, and then it turned north to evade the Sumatran coast. And there was a theory, a belief very early on, that the only large airfield that it could have stopped on that's outside of India is on Diego Garcia Island, a U.S. military base south of India. This is confirmed by the phone message and iPhoto message sent by Philip Wood, an American who was aboard the plane and who was a computer security expert with the FreeSoft team. He was with IBM, but he was assigned to Freescale, and that's why he was on the flight. He did get a message off, and we've pinpointed that site to Diego Garcia Island. Now, what happened to the passengers after that, nobody knows. There's various suggestions, but what it means is obviously we won't be finding out for a long, long time if the if the passengers are held hostages, or if the plane did crash somewhere and has not been discovered. We will not know for a long time. And so the search for MH370 will have to continue for perhaps decades to come. We know many, many years to come. We will continue searching for that plane. This is Yoichi Shimatsu speaking from Kuala Lumpur.